Yeah, busy. Really,
Yeah,
really busy. It's unbelievable.
it's not a bad thing.
Oh, well, it is because I kind of because we're so seasonal.
Yeah.
We foresaw this coming of going back to our seasonality, post COVID. So we laid people off. We geared our our staffing situation to a point where it was within budget, and then we're frantically trying to find people because we're incredibly busy. On Saturday night, Saturday night, we averaged 45, 50 people, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
In in the back end of winter, but no, it's really positive. Really, really.
That's good. That's good. That's good to hear.
Lots of domestic travel. Lots of people coming from Cornwall.
Yeah.
Which is getting a bit of a trend shift of the spa and things. But yeah, lots of people coming from Cornwall.
But is the spa's always? You've always had a spa, or is it recent?
2019. So we just as it got going.
Yeah.
So it's taken a while, but but it's good, really good at the minute.
That's good. That's good. Well, it's surprising actually with what's going on at the moment in the world, cost of living and everything. It's good to see that at least there's people are still traveling.
I don't know if it's quality establishments which are still
It could well be. It could well be. Yeah, it could. The people who've got money have still got money.
Yeah.
So
because when they get into us, we're feeding everybody. Where previously, we said a lot of bed and breakfast, and they'd walk into the village or sort themselves out. But, they're eating, they're dining. We're selling more. Spend per head's gone up. So it could work well for quite a good first quarter.
Yeah. Because I know on the converse of that, I know some hotels that have got like the typical tour coach trade, and they've been really well since last quarter. Really, it's kind of been a bit low compared with previous years. So I think possibly it's the people who've got the money are sort of traveling local, as it were, and the people who haven't got the money aren't traveling.
I answered the phone last week and a chap wanted some Reiki, a massage, and I think this must have been mid-January, and I couldn't get him in until mid-February. So it's 3 girls full every single day, and yeah, it's
you'll be down there next, having to do a few massages and.
This is disappointing enough people. Oh dear.
You can step in the restaurant, step in reception, but when it comes to the spa, it's a little difficult.
I'm stepping into the kitchen tonight, so that's going to be a fun evening.
Yeah, Faulty Towers episode, won't it? All different hats going on.
Yeah.
I'm not a bad cook, to be honest, Simon.
Yeah.
Does reminded me of when I started out in the industry in Trust House Forte. I was operations manager in a small country hotel, and in the Sunday morning I got up, unlocked the hotel, started cooking the breakfast, then went out to serve it, and then I had a little buzzer on my belt that told me if somebody wanted to check out. So it was like, didn't you just yeah, I cooked your breakfast as well.
Yeah, that was probably after finishing at 4 o'clock, after closing the bars up.
Indeed, after finishing a wedding at 4 o'clock the night before and locking up. Yes.
Putting the linen away and all this stuff.
Yes. And they wonder why I'm in finance now.
That's right. They also wonder why they can't get people to do that.
You got any jobs?
But yeah, it's an industry we have to love, isn't it? How are you, Simon?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, very good. Glad January's gone. Miserable time, isn't it?
I don't know. I've been lucky. I've been quite busy, so yeah, I'm not really stopped to see January.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Good. Just
good.
Enjoying the unnecessarily high temperatures here. We're about 9 degrees at the moment. +9, +9, yeah. Normally minus 9.
That's your summer gone then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Hi, Alex, you're new to the forum, aren't you?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to stop by and see how things are going, if I could help with anything, and also learn from the speakers. So
That's good. That's good. Yeah, we just have a general chat at the beginning, see how everybody's getting on, and then I'll pop into the hot stat stuff. Martin, how are you? Where are you?
Hey, how's it going? It's been a while. Still in Abu Dhabi for another a month and a half thereabouts, and then I'm going back to Sweden before going to Spain. So yeah, but yes, it's a nice and sunny day here after a cold spell where it was about 90 degrees, and we had to put a jumper on. All right. But,
yeah, I don't think your cold spell's anything like what Kevin gets up there.
No, we couldn't cope with that. But I mean, like, because you're so used to like having, like, just being able to walk out in a t-shirt, that if you can't, then you automatically think like, change the sign out, it's chilly today.
Yeah. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Very good indeed. Yourself?
Fine. Yep, keeping busy.
That's what we like to hear.
And keeping warm.
Well, obviously Scotland's the place to be.
Absolutely.
Funny, actually, I was just checking the gas consumption down in a hotel in Bournemouth, and they were at -7, and funnily enough, the cost had gone up. Cost per day had rocketed up. So definite comparisons there. But
certainly the weather seems to have turned on its head, with Scotland being warmer than down south.
Indeed.
Funnily enough, this morning, not that I'm obsessive about it, but this morning I was looking up to see what I was going to do today, and I looked at the next 10 days, and there's supposed to be this big Arctic dump of snow and crazy weather next week, either side of the 14th, and we're +9, I think, for then. So I don't think we'll get much snow unless something really different happens. So see, I am sort of on the other, if you know where the Cairngorms are, right in the centre of Scotland, I'm in the northeast. So most of the snow has already been dumped by the time the weather gets here. So it's a very fertile farming area. So it's got a little kind of microclimate, I think. But still cold. Polar bears still have a scarf on, that's yeah.
We seem to be was expecting quite a few more people today. There seem to be a bit short at the moment. I'll just give it a little bit more time. But yeah, it's everything's turned upside down, isn't it, as far as weather and everything's concerned. And it's like Daniel was just saying, even his trade's turned upside down. So strange times, really.
I missed the start of the conversation, but are you busy down there, Daniel?
We've had, November is the start of our finance year, and we're performing, I think, 10 to 12,000 pounds better than we should be. December, we smashed budget.
Yeah.
January, we're full.
Yeah.
And February, I was just saying to Robin at the start, I think we did average of 45 to 50 covers, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, staying in the hotel as well. So occupancy is high. Usually, as I say, I was saying to Robin, we gear our labour and our staffing down for this time of year, and now we're scrambling to find people because we're incredibly busy, and that goes all the way into March. April and May are behind where we were this time last year, but it's probably just a little bit early to be worrying about so far in advance. But
Mm.
yeah, we're going to have a stonking winter, which is
You're down on the Lizard, aren't you?
down the Lizards. So yeah, you know, you've got to be coming this way. It's as if we have a trade in Bristol, or you know, and you know, we built a spa in 2019 in order to fill the hotel in the winter, and that's no, you know, that goal has never been hit. A lot more younger people traveling from in Cornwall rather than before. We, you know, our target market was probably Devon, Bristol, Bath, but no, a lot more into county travel, which great, it's great, which is really great. Well, anybody this time of year is great, isn't it?
What are you got staffing issues there, Daniel?
Oh, we've always got staffing issues. I think it's due to location. When Brexit hit, we went on a real employment drive to employ local people, and that really worked. But no, because we laid people off in December because we were expecting to be incredibly quiet, we kind of limped through. And now I've got my head chef's off. He's been quite poorly. Yeah, it's just difficult to find quality. It's not hard to find people. It's hard to find skills. It's hard to find quality people, and people who fit in with our culture. Is very important to me. You know, what the culture of the place and who works with us. And it's just difficult to find those quality people.
So are you having to limit your offering?
We had been. You know, I went through our busiest 3 months with no head chef, and you know, it was really poor. And we limited our offering. We struggled with a 48% food GP just because it was difficult to find, you know, somebody who cared enough. As much as I can cook, it's just not.
I'm here to help.
Yeah, well, I cooked a little bit, and but no, we got a new chef. He's fantastic. He's just been a bit poorly.
Do you have living accommodation down there, Daniel, for your staff?
We do. We've got 16 rooms, of which 9 have been empty for about 6 months, because the majority of our staff now live locally.
Okay.
So you know, and we've had them all done up. Our sister property just bought an ex-old people's home and transferred that into, it's like 35 ensuite rooms.
Is that the one? It's Burr Island.
No, Felston.
It's Felston, your sister property.
Yeah, so just the next bay round from Bigbury. So yeah, we spent money, you know, investing in our own staff accommodation, but it's just not used.
Because Burr Island did that as well, didn't they? They bought a care home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think also I think the Nair have just spent an absolute fortune on their staff accommodation as well. And it's all over, you know, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. They're really pushing, you know, what they're.
I think the problem is that there isn't, the people aren't coming from abroad to be able to need that staff accommodation because of Brexit and everything. It's a difficult time, because if somebody is moving from another part of England, they're probably thinking about moving there permanently. So, you know, actually having the staff accommodation, it's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it? Yeah, might be interesting to watch next session, because we've got a guy on talking about the immigration process and how to get the people coming in from abroad. You got
David booked, have you?
Yeah,
Robin?
yeah. So that should be interesting.
I was going to suggest an introduction to Daniel.
Yeah, because that should be interesting to see, because it's actually, when you look at it, it's not that ludicrous an proposition now with the rates which we're paying people, and the fact, you know, that we really need people sort of permanently, then it's not a bad option. But that's for next.
I've got three clients and one friend who's worked with David already. 2 of them have already got chefs arrived and working from India, and the level of training and knowledge of the guys that are coming in is just superb. So it'd be a real, yeah, definitely one not to miss, Daniel, next time. And I'll probably, so I'll send you an introduction to David so you can start to talk to him straight away. Because if you've got accommodation, you've got half of the thing nailed already.
Yeah. Oh, you're on mute.
I used to work with a lot of the colleges, so La Rochelle in France, so I worked with an Austrian college, and they'd send fantastic students, you know, hospitality based from the hospitality schools. And sometimes, you get students, you got to give them a week or two to settle in before you can get them to do anything. Not the students, they get absolutely fantastic. Rock up first day, taking orders, talking to guests, exactly what you want to do. And that just, Brexit just killed that dead.
Although you could try and do a deal with a college to do some kind of training, so they get a student visa. Yeah. But anyway, that's next session. This session we're talking about hot stats, and I've got the report, the presentation hot off the press from Michael at Hot Stats. So I'll launch into it now. Here we go. So, yeah, that's fine. So, I assume most people know about Hot Stats. They get data from about 10,000 plus hotels across the world, 400 providers. A lot of them are the big companies, but they're really interested in getting more independent hotels into their database now, just to get the right comparisons, and like say 135 countries across the world. So I love the hot stat stuff because it just gives you that information, and as it's quoted here, without data you're just another person giving an opinion, and there's so many people in the world these days giving their opinion that I always think it's good to actually look at the data that's available and look at the real things. And like I say, that's where I come from. All my reports and stuff that I prefer for my hotels are very much data driven, very much strong analytical information, probably too much, some may argue, but I always think it's better to have the information and the detail, and then sort of like skip over the bits you're not interested in, than be scrapping around to try and put that data together later on. So so as long as it's easy to put together, then it's always handy. So moving into it, I'm just going to move that should be okay. Yeah. So I'm just I'm going to move everybody down to the bottom. Probably a good idea if you move people down to the bottom, because most of the graphs stretch across the page, and the right hand bar is always causes a bit. So recovery, obviously clear idea of what happened in the pandemic. We all know where it was. GOP per available room really hit rock bottom in the beginning of 2021 or 2020, and it's sort of kind of been fluctuating ever since. That line there is actually the Middle East, Martin. I don't know. They seem to have recovered a lot quicker than other parts of the world. And the one that's at the bottom, I should have just changed this. So the one that's at the bottom is Africa and those areas. But
also for the for the Middle East, it's mostly driven by Dubai, and then don't forget that this is also due to the conflict in Ukraine, because the city is like literally chock-a-block full of Russians. That's all. It is all, like, it's 90% of that is Russian business, and the same in real estate.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting to know. I didn't realize that. So moving on, revenue per available room in Europe. Just should have thought about this before. There we go. Rooms is not doing badly. It seems to be recovering. That's the one there, 12%. The 15% one is other revenues, which obviously during the pandemic, everybody who could looked for other ways of making money out of their business, and that's easily shown in what's happened here. I'm not sure whether that includes any furlough revenue. Could do, in which case that's an obvious reason for some other revenue. But looking at where we are now, yeah, rooms are recovering. C&B still looking weak. It seems to have had a little bit of a peak over the past few months, but still looking quite weak. And F&B as well, still looking quite weak. So yeah, still some work to do there. By segment, we've got we've got some mainly leisure and bar, which we all kind of know about. That the strongest areas, even through the pandemic, were always the leisure area of it. Conference and banqueting has recovered a little bit recently, but it's still quite low. And tours was putting people into a bus or something to try and get them to go on holiday was a no-no, as we know, and it's still taking its time to sort of come back up to the levels that we were experiencing. In Europe, occupancy is low across Europe. Economy mid-scale is starting to show a bit more growth towards what it was before. Other ones seem to have sort of like hit a straight line, about 9 to 10% below what they were in 2019, or at the end of 2019. So, and that's interesting, because later on we'll see there seems to be a clear idea that less people are traveling, but they're spending more. And here we can see it with total revenue per available room is actually on a high compared to before the pandemic, especially in the economy and mid-scale, but also in all the other areas. We've still got some good revenue per available room there. So that's there seems to be definitely some good rates coming through as opposed to occupancy. And then just one minute, this is a clear one on golf resorts, spa resorts, beach resorts. Clearly they benefited better from those moments where the world wasn't in lockdown, and they still seem to be going quite well now, even after we've opened up and people have got the ability to go in other areas. People still seem to be concentrating more in those sorts of beach resorts, spa resorts, golf resorts, rather than the inner cities and everything, which we know are sort of suffering more. Clear one here to what I was saying earlier. The TrevPOR across Europe seems to be better than it was back in 2019. However, the occupancy is lower, and in some places quite a bit lower. So just kind of brings into the play that idea that people who are traveling are spending more, but the ones who but there's not as many people traveling still, and that's probably going to continue for a while. Conference and banqueting revenue, we've got obvious lows all the way through the pandemic, a bit of a spike, Manchester seems to have had a bit of a spike over. In fact, it's the only one that really seems to have done all right in the last few quarters. Whereas all the rest are still pacing below what it was in 2019, and some pretty bad ones, sort of like Birmingham, Edinburgh. So still a lot of work to do with CMB. That's another one really. That's Europe. So across Europe, we've got a similar story. Some interesting, seem Paris and Warsaw's, Milan and Warsaw, sorry, seem to be the ones that I'm not sure if that's Paris or Warsaw. My color blindness is getting into me now. But yeah, there's a couple that seem to be improving, and they've had certain spikes, but as we know, conference and banqueting revenue is never been too good during the pandemic, and it's still trying to get its way. So then if we look onto some clear comparisons between 2019 and 2022, clear improvements in sort of golf revenue, leisure revenue, but also in cancellation charges, which kind of means that sort of, yeah, people are still sticking to those sort of like resort type areas, and also people are still suffering the sort of like from having to cancel short notice, probably because people are catching COVID in a group or something like that. And that's probably where we're getting most of that cancellation revenue from. Funnily enough, I know Bournemouth is going to have a bit of a bad April because CWU have cancelled their conference, but I think that's probably because of what was going on with all the strike action and everything. But it's a lot of cancellations about. Now, if we go into the GOP, interesting to see that Dublin is actually doing better than it was in 2019. It's Dublin and Paris are showing improvements on 2019, whereas most of the rest of Europe is still back on the Q4 of 2019. London's not doing too bad, looking fairly close. Vienna, Amsterdam, Zurich, but yeah, sort of Berlin, and we've seen some other bits and pieces about Germany. They seem to be suffering at the moment, Berlin. So then we go into the different sectors in Europe, and there is a clear gain in the mid-scale to economy. So 40% up on 2019 month on month, whereas most of the other markets seem to be sort of just like around about where they were back then. So interesting to see there's not really that much of a drop anymore. There's one which I think is upper mid-scale, where they seem to be back -15, but they've had a good previous couple of quarters. So there's just a small drop now in December, but a clear gain there on the mid-scale economy, and that shows through as well in your profit margins when you compare Q4 of that 2019 to Q4 of 2022. The only hotel type that's actually doing better than at GOP level than it did in 2019 is the economy and mid-scale, which is actually quite surprising, really, because I mean they're probably the ones that have had to make the most effort to maintain their cost control with everything that's going on in the world, compared to sort of the more luxury hotels that have probably had should have had an easier ride, but yes, a clear benefit on the economy and mid-scale hotels. Key labor trends, obvious one, housekeeping labor, rooms labor, very much higher than it was in 2019, and surprise, surprise, UK is leading the way with that higher cost, 34% higher than it was back in 2019, and followed by Netherlands, Poland is one of the lowest, and France the lowest of these ones. So everybody seems to be suffering from a labor shortage and a need to pay more, but obviously UK is at the top of the leaderboard on that one. And an obvious one here, utilities per room. Again, UK is at on the leaderboard. An average of £10 per available room compared to an average across Europe of £8. I think we've seen why that's the case across with all that's going on here, but it's quite a stark figure really when you look at it, and it's really making.
Listen to some of this. They're fine.
Okay.
This is quite interesting. So yeah. This is it's a webinar. They can't hear us. That's good.
Well, I can, whoever that is. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
That was a big, sorry about that, guys.
It's all right. Okay, so yes, so a clear indication there that what the hotels are suffering here in the UK as far as utilities are concerned, and we'll see a bit more in a minute. So key expense trends, GOP margin slightly lower than 2019. Rooms not too bad, still lower, but it's nearly there. F&B, and I can see that in a lot of people I work with, a lot of things in the things. Definite hard work there with F&B to with the payroll costs involved and the amount of people actually using the F&B services in some hotels. A clear problem there to maintain a profit which is similar to 2019. Higher profit in other, but that's probably because they get, like I say, spa, golf, cancellation fees, all these other revenue streams are doing well. It means that they're probably getting a better share of a profit, as it were. So overall, departmental just slightly back, 1% back on 2019, but not too bad really when you think to what we've been through in the past 2 years. To be that close to 2019 levels is quite promising. Clear indicators, clear gains or clear damage. Linen costs up 20%, food cost of sales 10% up, and I think that's probably actually quite a small percentage to what I've been seeing in the industry. I mean, Simon will probably back me up on this, but I think some areas food beverage cost of sale is getting higher than that 10%. So yeah. I mean,
pure food costs have risen by around 20%. So, you know, if you were running a 32% food cost and you've done nothing, then you'll have seen 6.5 points put on that. So you'll be up around the 38, 39s.
I think possibly some of the bigger operators have looked at ways to improve their margins, possibly by actually reducing product and stuff, to bring down the cost of sale as a total, because as we know, cost of sale is a combination of the actual purchasing price and what you put into the product. Also, with the trend being for people to spend a little bit more and there to be less of them, that will influence the actual cost of sale to mitigate part of that that increase in actual produce increase.
Yeah, and that's the key point there, Robin, and that's where I'm having a lot of success is on the mitigation, and just being clever with how you propose the menu, what products you use, good internal food cost management. That, you know, because nobody can escape the fact that food has risen massively, you know. So it's what you do with it now that really matters.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think, have we got Mark Owen on as well, because he's our beverage cost guru, but I don't think he's on today. But he's commented as well that it's all about managing your wine list to make sure that you're running your wine list for your own benefit and not that of the beverage supplier, which is always key. Yeah. So another one, booking costs. I think all the hotels have been subject to a higher reliance on OTAs, just as other clients are more inclined to look on the OTAs to actually get the deal, and that is really affecting the way hotels work, really having to work harder to get that to get those people through to their website and not pay those commissions. And I think the OTAs probably took advantage a bit of the situation over those pandemic period, and they're still benefiting from that now. So clearly where people have to work to try and entice those clients off the OTA sites and everything, just to save on those costs, because they do take a good whack out of your rooms cost. IT contract services, again, an increase, and not really a surprise, because I think with the pandemic, a lot of people suddenly realized that so many things could be automated, or software for ordering, software for this, software for the other, ways of being able to get to the client without actually physical contact. And I think that's sort of shown through here, where people are paying that little bit more just to have sort of higher quality of software within their business. And here's the killer: utilities 84% up per occupied room on 2019. That's a bit more, and it's 100%. So that is clearly the area where the industry is suffering the most from what's going on in the world at the moment. And anything that we can do to try and reduce the consumption is certainly a worthwhile practice. And if we look at this growth margin by the different areas, again, we see that the only area that is just slightly above 2019 Q4 is economy and mid-scale. Upper mid-scale is clearly the one that kind of is suffering the most in this whole game, really. I think people are either going for the economy, or they can afford to go for slightly higher levels, and that bracket is kind of suffering the most, with having to give the service but perhaps not getting the best rates. I experienced this in 2008. A lot of the quality establishments were just tweaking their prices down a little bit and almost knocking the upper scale out of the market, because people were being able to go to a higher quality hotel at the price they perhaps would have normally paid for that upper mid scale. obviously that kind of, it doesn't affect the economy. The economy one is simply the people who can't even afford to go to the mid-scale anymore. So a clear sort of separating of the market upwards and downwards there. And so basically, takeaways from this: big impact on cost increases across the board, but higher rates being charged. And people, if they're controlling those variables, they seem to be able to sort of push through and keep the GOPs up at a similar, if not same level as 2019. I think a biggest hit is probably going to be the utilities, and if it weren't for those, I think a lot of hotels would actually be coming through with sort of the same or even higher GOPs than before than before the pandemic. But the utilities charges have just really hit everything on the head, and made that and caused the biggest problem recently. Middle East hotels did well, and as Martin pointed out, seems that most of the Russians have gone there to escape Russia, and I assume that will continue until the war is over, at which time they'll probably return home, and Middle East will drop back down again. Probably, as it's said here, that the next sort of thing that's probably going to drop down again in the future. Seasonal hotels have been more resilient, as Daniel has pointed out today. You know, the hotels that perhaps weren't expecting to be busy over the winter period are getting busier, and that's improving their profitability across the whole year. Possibly results of the whole impact of the climate change, where everywhere seems to be that little bit warmer, and people are just that little bit more enticed to go away for weekends, because they think they might actually have a decent weekend rather than just spend all weekend in a hotel with rain. So and those that do go away are also benefiting from spas and areas where they can be inside and enjoy being away from home, and give that extra profit to the hotels. So definite trend there. We're expecting Q1 to be strong year on year, but could be hampered by these energy costs, which is obvious, really, and it will carry on to be hampered until they kind of drop those prices. Although we're now seeing definite reduction in costs at the wholesale level, whether that will come through to the actual companies is still to be seen. They're expecting European resort locations to be strong this year, especially in the summer. Probably people being able to travel more, making the most of that, and a possible fall in the UK profit margin, based no doubt on the way that things are going here, with utility charges, increased costs due to importation, higher importation costs, higher labor costs due to the lack of people. It's kind of it's almost a bit of a time bomb, isn't it? Everything that could go wrong's gone wrong, and it's hitting us hard here in the UK. So that's it, really. I'll send the PDF through as usual, and if anybody wants information, you can get in touch with Michael at Hotstats, who put this stuff together, and he's always looking for more hotels to join the Hotstats database, so we can get a much better analysis across the country. And I always encourage people to join, even if they don't go for paying for a competition set. I always encourage people to at least go join and give their data in, because then at least you get the comparisons across your local region or across the UK. And then if you're really looking to compare yourself, always make sure that what you compare yourself with is a valid competition set. prime example, when I was in the south of Spain, luxury hotel, it wasn't competing with the rest of the hotels in the south of Spain. It was competing with hotels in Sicily, hotels in Italy, Paris, you know, resort hotels across the Europe, who had the same sort of golf, spa, seclusion type areas with high quality. That so it's not always a case of looking at your local competitor to actually compare yourself as far as your profit margins and everything is concerned. Sometimes it is just a case of saying, well, actually, you know, who am I more similar to? But yeah, definite trends there, and I would say definite positivity, really. Almost say that we're at a reset to 2019, and if we can just get rid of some of these costs that caused by sort of like the pandemic, then we can possibly grow. Aidan, I can see you're scowling at that comment. Do you not agree?
I mean, I think the energy costs overall have been a complete killer for us. I mean, just popped in the chat actually that you know, the costs that we've actually experienced are like plus 185%. So not plus 84, plus 100% plus the 84. You know, it's you know, literally tripled. So you know, and it's like with things like that, it's like, and the staff costs. I mean, our wage budget is sort of literally, it feels more than 32% in 3 years. It feels a lot more than 32%. Yeah. So it does feel like, you know, each day there is a new bit of bad news. You know, business rates feel like they're going, you know, obviously the business rates are about to sort of go back to their sort of their official rate again in April. So I think once all the costs become loaded back in again, it'll be I think it feels like it's going to be another challenging year, but that's just my personal opinion.
And how are you experiencing rates? It seems to be that in general, when people are there, they seem to be spending more money. Do you find the same, or because
it feels key, like really? It's I mean, what I'm personally finding is it's very hard to really see a consistent pattern. You know, each month sort of comes with its own sort of, you know, news story. You know, be it good, be it bad. I mean, this, you know, the last month of January, you know, actually our revenue for the month was up about 15-20%. Which is, you know, it's not bad, not to be sneezed at, but it's like we might have like a really good month 1 month, and then 2 months later we'll have some kind of like minus 15-20%, and it's sort of, you just can't get that sort of predictability to have confidence in it.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, there's clearly some really good months going on, but it's not that it's uniformly good.
Yeah, it's there's still fluctuation there, isn't it? And it showed really in all the graphs that we just looked at. It wasn't a case of a steady climb. It was a case of slowly going up, like a step, like up one, down two, up one.
Yeah.
But no. But
you know, there's like a real underlying volatility which just is not there in sort of normal years, and it continues to be there. So
it's and I suppose until this whole Ukraine thing finishes and
which doesn't look like it's going to be imminent, so we have to sort of almost like readjust our lives around it. The problem is that sort of until the energy prices sort of really catch up with wholesale prices. I mean, the wholesale prices are, you know, really come down by a long way since August. So actually, what if and when that starts to feed into the contracted rates that hotels are paying, then actually we should see some softening of price pressures. And then hopefully the thing is that it then, you know, the difficulty of the energy price, it feeds through into every single sector. So a laundry bill, you know, the current provider wants to put their bills up by 50%, not 27, but 50% overnight. And yeah, it's things like that, just, you know, literally just keep coming out of left field.
Yeah. Kevin, I don't know if you know anything about, because obviously you work with Gaeltel and those guys. Is there any kind of sign that people who are contracting now are getting better rates because the wholesale is going down, or is it kind of still?
Yeah, the wholesale is starting to drop. But my advice to anybody that needs to do something right now is probably try and get a 6-month contract. You might pay a little extra for it, but you'll land in a place that's probably much better after probably May onwards, it'll start to drop. It won't come down, obviously, it won't come down to what it had been, but it'll drop considerably. I mean, it was up over £1 a kilowatt hour for some people. And now it's kind of around about the 60 odd. There's a company, one of the hotels that I've started to look after again, Robin, is they're on about 60 odd at the moment, but they've taken 6 months. So in June, they'll be sitting in a better place. It'll almost definitely be less than 60. But I mean, 60 is a lot, considering it was 15 in 2019. It's hellish. And I share your grimace, Aidan. There's going to be no bargains. In fact, I'll just say it, because what we do with Gaeltel is we try and help people get onto sustainability and generate their own power, because that's always going to be the cheapest, is to generate your own power and buy less off the grid. And that's going to be the way of the future. That's the only way to combat it, is to have a significant sustainability plan so that you don't have to buy it off the grid, because it's never going to go low. It's always going to sort of be a big expense. But 84% is frightening. That's an average. Yeah. So to get that, there's some people be way over 100, because people were still in a contract for a decent rate. So it's that's the way forward, I think, is to generate your own.
Good point. Anybody else got any comments, any questions on what we've just seen?
So I mean, like, what a really dumb question, Kevin, is that, if say, for example, the wholesale prices are, I mean, maybe I'm looking at the wrong place, but wholesale prices are like no more than double where they were back in 2019. So why are the contract prices ×4 if the wholesale prices are ×2?
Well, I mean, the answer is that people are greedy. The hospitality is now seen as a bad risk. So, it wasn't that long ago that people were being asked for large deposits if you're in a hospitality industry. The companies we deal with have given us an assurance that they won't do that. But where hospitality is seen as a poor risk, and there's a levy to that for our industry. So once they see us as a profitable industry again, then we'll be treated fairly.
Yeah, valid point. I think there were that many hotels going out of business and leaving heavy debts that it was like, there was real difficulty in getting deals with any of those with any of the suppliers.
Even we had a 6 week spell over December, late November, December, where people were just refusing to quote for just normal companies as well. They didn't want any new business. They weren't taking it on because it was a risk and perceived risk.
So, like, I mean, unless I'm mistaken, would it surely not be better for the government to sort of step in to make sure that there's a functioning market rather than step in to give subsidies? Because actually, if there was a working market, actually it becomes functional and prices will drop of their own accord.
Yeah.
Whereas, if there's no functioning market, you're going to end up with artificially sky-high prices. So would it not be better to sort the marketplace rather than sort the prices?
You would have thought, yes.
Yes, you would have thought.
You're talking far too much sense there, Aidan.
Yes, there's a lot of those arguments going about at the moment. Wouldn't it be more sensible?
The government are after growth, aren't they? And they're never going to get growth if people are tied up in massive cost of energy. It's just bonkers.
They're never going to get growth if they cut themselves off from their biggest market either. But
the wrong people, Simon, are running the country. If they just come to Robin 2 years ago, this could all have been fixed.
And let's leave it at that, because we're not getting too political with that.
Robin for PM.
Yeah. Anybody else got anything? We're coming up to the hour now. I hope you find that information interesting. I certainly did when I saw it earlier on and went through the figures and everything. And yeah, it's it kind of tells a story, doesn't it? Yeah, we have the drop. We're now going through quite a bit of fluctuation. The emphasis seems to be on getting a better rate for your book, as it were, for the bums on the beds, and that's probably going to be the way forward. Concentrate on the people who can pay, and
the rate of and the tariffs in food and beverage as well, Robin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not just about. I mean, let's face it. The way the situation is at the moment, if people can't afford to go out, they can't afford to go out. So it doesn't matter whether you're charging an economical, sort of like a low price or a higher price. They're probably not going to come. Whereas the people who can afford to go out, as long as you're not ripping them off, I think you've got every justification to charge a sensible price, which then gives you that benefit to actually keep going, and that's where people have to concentrate, really, and over the next few months until we get through the utility crisis, as it were.
Yeah, I think, but by the end of the year, the utilities won't be as bad as it is now. That's the general opinion, but it'll still be much worse than it was in 2019.
Okay, good, excellent. Right, well, thank you everybody for joining me today. Hope you have a good month, good week, good month, and look forward to seeing you again in a month's time.
Okay, thanks.
Robin,
yes,
Robin,
sorry.
Sorry, can I just do a quick? Sorry, it's Caroline. I know obviously it's not the subject we're talking about today, but I'm looking. I think I mentioned to you about doing another mock trial pre-damage prosecution. And we're trying to gauge the interest of the industry. We've got quite a lot of interest from local authority, but hotels, restaurants, etc., whether they would be interested in attending. The link I can put into the chat. But obviously, yeah, if people are interested, I think the businesses or the hotels that they work with might be interested in attending. It's quite a worthwhile event. It's quite innovative to see what could go wrong and how much it can cost you if it goes wrong as well. So yeah, I don't know if that's of interest for anyone, but thank you. Sorry, Robin.
No, that's fine. Yep, that's good. And I'll pop that into the summary that I send around later on today as well.
Thank you. Great talk. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Robin.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, thanks again, Robin. That was good.